Okay, so now you see there's an open port there on the bottom of that, I think that's the power steering cooler. And it goes into the very bottom port down there, center frame of the radiator. That is hose 17127576367. So it's just like this in the vehicle. So you can see which way you need to pull your tabs. This one here is angled straight down to the radiator, so you can get to this one and release it from the top. This one here, as it goes kind of towards the, it's more or less like this, it's going to go to the side of the vehicle, so you're going to have to get up underneath, and there's a little access hole in there where you can, I grabbed it with some long needle nose pliers and pulled it. All right, now this is part number 576370. It's going to be the other side, down there where that black adapter goes down into that cooler, where you see the open hole there. That one's really easy to get to, pops right off, and that's that one. All right, next is going to be this pipe here. It runs, it wides off down here, and then it runs all the way over to this. I believe that's the outlet on the intercooler there. And then it goes down to a Y piece where there's another one of those quick disconnects, like so. Okay, so you got the hard plastic pipe there. That is pipe, I think that's 380. And then the part that's left down here, and all the schmoo there staring up at you, that comes around up to the front side of the radiator. You've got 3 different cooling apparatus here. This one, this radiator in front, is cooling for the intercoolers. You have the AC condenser right behind it, and then right behind that you can see yet another row of fins, and that's the radiator. And then you got the radiator down here. Wow. So anyway, this one goes to that, and this is for the turbos. All right, this one, so you're going to take a good stout pair of pliers, and you're going to clamp that until it locks on itself. And then I took a knife, and I made a nice little slice right here. Try to relieve some of the tension around the top of this fitting on this radiator, because mine's original. It is stuck on here. And the one thing you don't want to do too much of is pry on this aluminum stuff. So if you've already got the new pipe and or the new hose and it's the right one, make a slit in it or two and relieve some of that tension, and then that will help break up the the friction, the corrosion that's on there, and slide it off easier. Because you don't want to have to go and replace this radiator just because you got in a hurry. Waha. And there is one of the pumps out, and left this hose on it. The other hose down here is a factory BMW worm style clamp. That hose slid right off. So this pump was leaking, which is why I was trying to get to it and change it. But I noticed that, before you start working on it, it's completely buried in hoses and other pieces and parts. The electric fan's in the way. But when I could see it and kind of wiggle one of the hoses, I could tell that the pump was loose. I didn't know that that was wrong, but here you can see the mounting bracket that's supposed to hold it to the car is broken. So if you're going to do this on, whatever has this style of pump on it, you might want to go ahead and order the other part of that bracket there. Bracket for auxiliary water pump, 17117576277. If I had known that was a thing on these cars, I would have ordered it. It's number 16 there. So I hate to you hate to put it back together without that being right. So I'm gonna have to dig that out from somewhere. But you can see it. I don't know if you can, but I can see right there below where that worm clamp is. There you can see what's left of it. That's the bracket there. And it looks like it's held on with a Torx screw. If it'll focus, there. It's a Torx screw right there, kind of the center top, that holds the other bracket on, or holds the bracket on, is holding the other piece of my bracket on now. So, be advised, that's that. And so here's the screw and the rest of the bracket. It's a T25 screw. And here's what it's supposed to look like. But you know what's odd is that I see RTV on here. I don't think that's factory. I don't know. Might be, but it doesn't seem likely. I don't know if someone tried to RTV that together, but this is a pretty heavy pump, and it's held on there with one mounting ear off of that plastic, or you know, this fiberglass plastic stuff that BMW loves. It's no wonder it broke. But if I almost don't see how anyone could have gotten in here to even try to RTV it without taking all this stuff off, and clearly none of it's ever been off, but that's obviously what that is. All right, now for hose 589 632. It's a little short one that comes off of that. It's the I don't know, it's this one. Okay, it comes off of this part of the pump here. It's got the hose clamp on it. Right there you can see the hose clamp. Okay, and then it goes down through below your lower radiator hose. There's two cutouts for hoses to go through. This is going to go through the bottom one. All right, so it's going to be positioned in the car this away. So this then comes into the side of this front radiator here. There you go. There you can see the fitting sticking out there. And we already did our upper one. Got that one off. That was also it was a different kind of hose clamp. It was a squeeze clamp. This one here is going to be the standard BMW quick release down there. And it's way down there. It's hard to get to. But what I did was I was able to get these long straight needle nose Duralast from AutoZone. I was able to slide it down in this portion here, just barely grab the quick release, pull it up, and if you can get a hold of it, those quick releases will lock themselves out. And then I was able to just push it right off, push it off the end of the radiator, and then pull the hose out this way. And if you put your arm down here, you've got a lot of room to, you know, go ahead and grab things down there. Just be careful with your fins. If you try to go right here, you know, if you're buff like me, you're not going to be able to, you know, get your arm down there and stuff. So that's that one. That fitting right down there is by far the hardest line to get back in yet. I just got it onto the outlet of the radiator there. So the trick with this one is A, patience, but B, what you're going to have to do to get that guy in is you're going to have to feed it in through this way with the open rubber end, poke the open rubber end through the hole that goes down here. Okay, so here's the other end of that hose. You're going to get that through there, and you're going to pull on it pretty hard to where you get the plastic end here. We get the plastic end, it's going to be under the aluminum fitting that's coming out of the radiator. When you get it under there, and then you try to have that quick release pulled up, but if you don't, it's no big deal. Once you get it under there and then pointed sort of towards the top, so it's going to be under the nipple, pointed towards the top. And what I did from there, because you don't have a lot of room to work with, I was able to take some channel locks, and I was able to just barely able to grab that thing with the channel locks and kind of maneuver it onto that aluminum nipple. and it took me probably an hour to get it on there. And of course, I accidentally bumped the safety catch down. That's really not a big deal. Once you get it slid over the port on there, then you can come in with this, a small screwdriver and just leverage it up, and then take a long screwdriver, something like that, probably between the core support there, and then the end of that hose gently. And this one just slipped right on. Pop your quick release down, and then that part's done. And then you've got your hose here ready for your aux pump to come back in. And I took the new worm clamp off because there's no way it's going to get through that hole down there without causing a big issue. It's hard enough to get the rubber hose through the hole without the clamp. And I fooled around with, maybe trying to take this core support off, and I thought maybe this little, plastic grill valance here would come off, and it doesn't. I took all these out. You can't get to it from underneath, or if you can, I don't know how to do it. So you can do it just through this hole, make max, use of coming in behind this support right here, and you can get it done. So when you pull these other intakes off the turbo, there's one T30 bolt. It's at the top there, kind of center frame. You can see, I'll show you on this side a little more clear. There you can see, right there's the hole where the other side screws into. It's just a little T30. So nothing special going on here. But one thing to be aware of, when you then go to pull this pipe out, be aware that little grommet there, or that metal spacer, metal bushing, it's not in there very, very solid, and it can and will come out. Didn't know that when I pulled this one. The one on this side came out with the bolt, and it's tiny. Going to be easy to get lost down there. Be careful. I pulled this. I ended up saving it. I pulled it out with this pair of long needle nose pliers, which those pliers are a must on this job. And then from there, I could pull the bolt out. Then your only other, the only other steps to taking this off is you got to loosen up this hose clamp here, and you got to take, I think this is part of the PCV system. You got to take this clamp loose, and it's a four-pronged deal. All right, so you got to get all four of those prongs to release their grip on the collar, on that thing there. You see how they kind of have slid over that collar? But what I did on this side is what I'm going to do on this side, which is just going to pry these tabs up gently with the flat blade. Okay, not too high, because you don't need very much height, and cheap BMW plastic won't take it. Okay, just enough, and then I'm going to pull back on that duct and then just ease it out, hopefully without breaking anything. All right, folks, finally got this out. And it came out in pieces. When I finally got this part to break free off of the pipe it was on, I was pulling up on it pretty hard, and when it came up, it just came up and out, because this completely just shattered, and that's unfortunate. You can see there, it's totally gone, totally rotten. This is the trouble spot. Here's the new one, and this is what it should look like, of course. As you know, I'm sad to see that they have not updated this piece. I was really hoping it would be metal when I got the new one in, and I looked at the Rain and the VAICO, and they're all that same kind of plastic in there. Okay, the reservoir itself is not too bad. You got one 10 mil bolt there. You got one 10 mil bolt back there. I went ahead, and there's two 10 mil nuts that hold the power steering pump on. The power steering reservoir on. I moved it off to the side. That lets you been able to maneuver that. Now, I've already got the inner fender liner off because I did this hose down here. I don't know how one would do this with the inner fender liner on. I'm going to assume it might be able to be done. but you'd really have to be good. Anyway, so I got up under here, a little screwdriver, pulled that out, and then you can separate these, and then you've got a electrical connection down here, and then out in, and that's the reservoir done. Have a good look at your new tank when you get it in. This is a Rain made in Germany type one, because this sensor on the bottom was actually, there you can see it, it's cracked. It was actually kind of, the crack was much bigger. I pushed it back together, and I think it's okay. You're not going to affect the sealing of anything, and I think it's all right. And if it's not, I mean, just going to have to deal with it. I'm going to put a little RTV around that and try to water seal it. Just check that when you're putting your new stuff in. Now, the more twin turbo BMW savvy of you may be wondering why. Well, you know, I'm replacing all these hoses. Why not just replace this one here that comes up off the bottom of the expansion tank, the reservoir, and then you can see where the other end of it goes. It goes right back here, and then I think you can just barely see the band clamp. Yep, the band clamp is right back there. Yep, right above where my finger is pointing. Well, two reasons I'm not replacing it. Number one, I'd have to take, to get to that, I'd have to take the whole intercooler off and out of the way, which is right above this thing here. I think, I'm not sure what this is yet. It's right below the intercooler. So you have to take the intercooler off, you'd have to take that off. And then that rubber pipe, the rubber hose that you see, that's not just one piece. That goes into an aluminum T. Part of it goes back to the outlet of the water pump. And then there's another metal piece. And then it tees off into something else. And then it also has a metal pipe that goes around the bottom of the engine all the way back. I'll show you here. So that is number 13. So what you see is this, okay? And then it comes up here, and then it tees into, because if you'll notice, there's no other number for this pipe. See how that aluminum pipe goes all the way to the back of the engine here? And then it turns back into rubber here, and then it goes into, this is the water pump outlet. The numbers that you're seeing here, 15 and 14, up here are bolts. Yep, hex bolt with washer, hex bolt. And so 13 is an entire assembly of this to that, over to here, and then back up and over to here. And you can buy it, it's $155 as of right now on FCPEURO, but I decided that, like, you could buy it and then you could take this rubber piece off, replace it, take this rubber piece off and replace it. But again, you'd have to take the intercooler and all the other stuff off, and I didn't think it was worth the trouble. Up next is hose 576354. It's this one, the upper radiator hose, but it's actually the assembly of it. This piece here goes into, it goes down there into some sort of valve. It's right below that one with the label on it there. Yeah, that one down there that's fuzzy. That's the other end of where it comes off of that aluminum housing down there. If you've already got the water pump out, this is no big deal. And then, of course, all your intercooler lines. There's a little close-up of the two. Should be identical. Always check them out. Looks good to me, so back on they go. Alright, as far as getting it on, a little tricky. That's it again, center frame down there, just because of where it is. I wound up taking the power steering reservoir and moving it over, shoving this, some sort of long bracing device against that little valve. Then, using my super long needle nose to push on the plastic collar, right about there. Okay, you get down and push on that plastic collar, you support that valve with, you know, some kind of brace, and you can get it down and clip it. And if you're like me and you've already taken off your inner fender wells, and here's that valve again, you got to have something here to keep it from wiggling backwards and hopefully not breaking it. Okay, water pump is back on. Haven't torqued it down yet. A couple of items of interest here. First one is that this bolt, and these are again E somethings, E8s, very small heads on them. This is the longest bolt, and back here where it attaches to the block, there is a sleeve that this housing has to slide over, and that sleeve is in the engine itself. Okay, so you can't see it now, but back there where you can see where the end of the pump is, and then where the crusty old block is, there is a sleeve in there that this has got to go over. Okay, so know that. Also know that that's the longest bolt. Then get your bolt in on that side. Okay, and then I just worked my way around. There's one bolt above it. Then there was one right directly down here. But that's where that is. And then the last one is right there. Okay, and to give you some perspective, that's almost directly under where the top one is. Okay, something else to consider here is that my water pump did not come with this temperature sensor right here, and I just now noticed it, so I pulled it out of the old one, but just to see if I would be able to go ahead and install the pump and then take it out later. I've only got it in hand tight right now. Make sure you order this dumb thing. I'm just putting it in here to plug the hole right now, basically. So that's it. So then I'm gonna good and tight those water pump bolts because I don't know what the torque is. I don't really care. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hook this part in up here on the water pump and get that in, which means then I can go ahead and replace this line, which is one of the last ones I think I need to do. There might be one or two more, yeah, on the left side over here to replace, but I'm waiting on a bracket for that pump to do that. So I'm getting there, slowly but surely. Alright, I lied when I said I didn't care about the torque. I do. According to the manual, it's 22 Newton meters on these M8 bolts, which is 192 inch-pounds, which is about 16 foot-pounds, which is really nothing at all. Hardly. It's just, again, it's German torque, good and tight. So I'm going to run them down because I don't have a torque wrench here that goes that low, and just to where I know that they're going to be okay. For you, those are the values if you choose to use them. A couple last notes on this wonderful water pump. When you are hooking this, whatever you want to call that, back into your water pump, there's a very thick rubber O-ring on the inside of this hole on the side of the water pump outlet. Lubricate that with some antifreeze or something, just some water or something, because otherwise you're never going to get this to come into this fitting. Even with that, it's going to be a very tight fit, as it has to be. Kind of work it back and forth, you know, give nice equal pressure on it. And I even took a pair of channel locks and squeezed this together, you know, more or less like this, squeezing here and trying to work it in evenly. It should, and what I had to do was I squeezed it in as far as I could, and it still wasn't seated, and I could tell it. So I very gently pried it back out with a screwdriver while I was, you know, kind of maneuvering it like this, and then slid it back in again, and then you'll feel it kind of seat and go over center and funk. It'll seat in pretty close to where it looks like this. It's still going to be loose, of course, till you get your bolt back in down here. But if you don't feel that go kind of over center, over the O-ring, it's not going to be seated in there, and you're going to have trouble. I believe this is another 22 Newton meter. That's what I German torqued it to. Don't forget to snap this clamp down here on this very short hose. And then that's pretty much it for the water pump. Don't forget your two electrical connectors here. And then if you've replaced this hose, you're also going to have to reconnect that hose where it comes up and goes in all the turbo world up here. Goes into this hose here, the 363. So I just got that one on and got the clamp on there. And again, a little antifreeze on that pipe nipple goes a long way. And what's the fun of working on a German car without enjoying a German cerveza to go with it? Reminds me of that time at Oktoberfest when I... Now on to this hose, which is a bit more tricky-deaky because replacement part 577012, this is what that part looks like. All right, so it comes off that T there, then it comes with that banjo fitting and banjo bolt and all that stuff, and then it extends all the way down here to where it goes into the underneath the upper radiator hose there. And then apparently on some models without the dynamic cooling package with the extra radiators down here under the headlights, this is just capped off, but mine has the radiators, so I actually have another hose that comes off of this and goes to the upper hose on that little radiator. What I've gone ahead and done here is just remove these factory band clamps, took it off of here because that pipe is in real good shape, so certainly no need to go taking this bracket off and get to that back banjo fitting back there. I mean, I just don't see any benefit to that. There you can see center screen, that's that banjo bolt, but I'd have to take all of this stuff off to get to it, you know, this thing here, and even then that's going to be a tight turn with a wrench, if that's even how you do it. I don't know. Probably better to do it with the turbos out. If your pipe's in good shape, just leave it. Okay, and then take the other clamp off of here and then ease that off. Then, you know, take it off down there normal style and then just use some hose clamps to secure it here. And of course I'm going to have to take this one off to slide it onto the pipe that's in place, but that's how I'm going to do that one. Okay, we're getting there. Got my alternator slid back into place. Only two real things of note here. One is that your big wire that comes off, or your big cable that comes off the back of the alternator, it goes under this hose. They kind of a side-by-side fit for the most part, except for right here. So here's the hose, and then there's the cable, right there where my finger is. Okay, so the cable goes under, and then to the side right there. Then these bolts here, these back Torx, these are not going to want to clear. These are not going to want to clear this gap here if this thing has worked itself back onto this bracket. You're gonna have to pop this off in order to get those Torx bolts back in. Side note, when you're putting these inlet ducts back on the turbos, make sure you put them on before the alternator goes back on, especially this driver's side. And mine was cracked down here. I had to buy a new one anyway. You can't do it with the alternator in place, and I forgot. So now I'm going to take the alternator back out. Don't do that. Now on this deal, remember I had this bracket was broken, so it just came in. Got the new one here with this piece attached to it. Piece 576277, BMW part I got for about $10 on eBay. A lot cheaper than going to the dealer or FCPEURO, but you got to wait, you know. Well, I had to wait a week to get it, so anyway. So now I'll put that on there, replace that whole thing and mount this pump, and then we'll keep progressing from there. Alright, reinstalling this pump is kind of a challenge, mainly just because of the way it's mounted. And what you're going to find is that, you know, you've got that two-part clamshell clamp that goes around it. So what you got to do is put the two-piece clamshell around it, tighten this T25 down, and then very carefully very, very carefully, you're then going to put this T25 down in its hole here. Sorry, I can't focus on it. And then just don't drop it down in the inlet of the pump or down in this hose or something like that. Okay, you may want to take this AC line loose anyway, just to get you a little bit of extra wiggle room around there. And then I took a very long, well, this is very long, but a nice long extension setup, and just dropped it all the way down in here to get on that crazy thing. And then, because you don't have much room to swing the ratchet, I went ahead. If you don't have one of these, please do yourself a favor and get one of these, because in situations just like this, you don't have a lot of room to swing the ratchet. You can put this thing down on here and just ever so gently start threading that bolt in there, and you will be happy that you did that. You know, I probably should note, since I just did it, after putting that lower radiator hose back on, I don't think it would probably be possible to replace that aux pump down here without taking the lower radiator hose off, because it's right there in your way. Like, that's it, center frame. And maybe if you're super duper good, maybe you could figure it out, but I just don't see any way that I could do it. You just need the space to get in there, get all those pipes loose, get them out, especially those clamps that I had such a trouble with. You know, mine were broken anyway, so just a side note. But now I've got this lower radiator hose back on. This is on. Don't forget to plug your pump in down here. That would be, no bueno if you forgot that. And now, shortly, I think what I'm going to do next is put this other aux pump back on, the turbo cooling pump. Probably put that into position, hook it in. One thing you may notice there, the gold, for sure. What I did here in error was not order the new pipe for that, the new hose, and this old piece that was on here, this thing was all crusty and yucky, and you can see the remnants of it. And this is after I cleaned it off. If you order this pipe, you only get the rubber part that comes down into the aux pump here, and then it comes up to here, and it has this part. It does not come with this rubber part. This is a separate hose. And I just forgot to order it anyway, because I ordered so many of these. So looking at it, the hoses seem to be in fairly decent shape, and I just decided to go ahead and replace that fitting. This is a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch PEX T. I got this at Menards because I saved big money, and this is what it is. Should work pretty good. I guess we'll find out. So I'll just recycle that one, and you know what? If it's terrible, it is what it is. At least I don't have to tear the whole rest of the cooling system out to get to it, like some of these others way down there. And that's that. All right, so I've got pretty much everything else back on. Got my charge pipes on. Got all these thousands of hose clamps hooked in. I don't have the intercooler expansion tank on yet, or this fan or anything like that, because what I'm doing next is I'm filling up the cooling system. This is something that I have learned how to do on my own through trial and error over the years, trying to get rid of air bubbles before they cause a problem for you. And so I just leave the upper radiator hose off, and I'm using it to basically backfill the rest of the cooling system this way. I've already got about a gallon in it, a 1/2 gallon of distilled and a 1/2 gallon of BMW Antifreeze, and I will never ever take a chance. I don't care if the Xerox or the Prestone says it's rated. Just freaking buy the BMW stuff. Order it from Auto House AZ or FCPEURO. Go down to the dealer and get it, because it's worth it. You don't want to do this if you don't have to. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to finish doing is, filling up the radiator this way. the radiator and the cooling system this way. And then I've got this one loose too, and this goes over here to the intercooler side. I may also pop a funnel in here and fill up the cooling system from that direction as well, because this also goes down into that very lower pipe down there, not the lower radiator hose, but one of the lower pipes that comes into, I think it's this one right here on the radiator. So just trying to kind of hit it from all angles, and make sure we get air pushed up from the bottom out through the expansion tank. And I think I heard this. I think I heard it bubble. I don't see any in there, but I think I heard some bubbles coming up out of that already. And then, oh yeah, I left this one off because I'm going to do the same thing. I'll pour that in because that goes into the very tippy top right there where this elbow is. That's the other side of that hose of the radiator. Try to get all the air out we can. And then, yes, I know there is a procedure where you go in, you turn the electronics on, not the car. You hold the accelerator pedal down for 5 seconds. It turns on that pump down there, and that starts pumping all the coolant through, and it, will get all the air bubbles out, and that's great, but we're going to give it a head start by doing it this way. That's what I'm going to do. I also believe on this car, because you have this radiator here, you also have then, yes, you've got a air relief here, or an air purge here. So I'm also gonna open this up and see if I get any fluid come out of it, because I know that was completely dry from replacing those hoses. And yes, for goodness sakes, I still got to put that inner fender well back on, and I'm dreading it. So that's how I do it. You do it however you want. That's how I do it, and it's always worked out well for me ever since I had a problem with the Jeep Wrangler, where I didn't backfill through the heater core, air bubble, overheat. Now this is the way I do it. All right, I had a little trouble getting my new FCPEURO expansion tank back on here. This particular hardware did not want to go back in this hole. Had to take the charge pipe back off. I had to put a crescent wrench on this thing here, that captured nut down there, in order to and then bend that whole thing up. So, and you can see it's kind of angled that away, but at least I can get this threaded in here now. So I don't know if I bent the bracket or if this FCPEURO tank is just a little bit different, but oh, and also make sure that that tab is above the metal and not below it, because I made that mistake earlier also. All right, I'm ready to fire it up, and I know some of you won't be happy that I didn't show some of these steps, like getting the fan back into place, and filling up the coolant and stuff, but that's really about all I did. The fan is the same way as getting it out, a pain in the neck. Make sure that, make sure you don't forget your connector here, but also don't forget that it has these tabs down here that lock it into place, okay? And it's got to go down. Yeah, that's it. It's got to go down over that tab. That is what locks each side into place. Make sure that you get your this hose. This hose here has a plastic part on it that kind of locks it into a slot in the. There you can kind of see it. It locks it into a slot in the fan. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. Over here on this side of the fan, you've got, it's that part that swings out. Make sure that you get it there. Make sure you get it swung back over and behind that slot there. Okay, because that's what locks this side down. Okay, then fill up your tank with the 50/50 of the good old BMW juice. I highly suggest taking the time to open this bleeder, and I did, and I had there you can see the remnants of it dripping out. As I was pouring it into the main overflow, I could hear bubbling, and then eventually I could hear dripping, and I knew that this one was airing out. So I don't see any leaks statically, so the next thing is going to be to run that bleed procedure and see what we get. With any luck, I'll be ready to start this thing soon. Okay, so I've just hooked up the battery, switched on the ignition. I was going to do the bleed procedure, but as you can hear, this little pump here, this little one, it's going to town on its own. I don't know how normal or not normal that is. I think I'm going to give it a few minutes and see if it stops before I try the rest of the procedure. It's been going about 3-4 minutes now. Well, it never stopped. I turned the car on, or turned the car off and back on again, and you hear it running still. Something doesn't seem right there, and it doesn't seem like it's actually pumping anything unless I don't know exactly where that's drawing water to and from. So ignition on, low beams, and then if you got the Eco Pro button, it's supposed to be on Eco Pro, but I don't have it. So I'm going to press the gas pedal down for 10 seconds. 2. Okay, there's 10. I do indeed hear another pump pumping. And all of my coolant has just drained out of here. Oh, and out of here. Guess I ought to add one more. It's definitely doing something. Okay, we're doing stuff and things. And there you have it. Running perfect. No lip, no leaks. Very, very happy about that. So you can do it. I need to do a follow-up on that pump and see. Now it's so loud I can't tell if it's running or not. Anyway, I hope this video helped you out. Good luck. Now I've got a traction error. Arg.